I just kind of like cringe every time I see somebody use like the curling attachment, for instance, on dry hair because, well, hello there, welcome back. If you're new, I'm Cam, and if you're into all things beauty, I'm talking hair, makeup, skincare, the occasional fashion haul, just yeah, all things beauty, then I would absolutely love it if you would hit that subscribe button down below and join the Cam fam, my little ever-growing beauty community here on YouTube. This is a very appropriate video for today because it has been a year to the exact day. I'm talking last year, December 6th, 2021, I got my Dyson Airwrap. I started using it day one, have been using it for a year, and I know there's a lot of videos all about the Dyson Airwrap reviews out there, and there's a lot of controversy because this thing is money, honey. It's super expensive, so I'm gonna break down everything for you guys. I mean, everything. FYI, I did use it for today's hairstyle, and if you want the full tutorial on that, I'm gonna link it up here, so make sure to check it out to get these Victoria's Secret bombshell waves with this. But I feel like it's a very misunderstood, sometimes misused product. A lot of people balk at the price, and I don't blame you. And I've seen it used correctly, or people just giving snap judgments on it without giving it a lot of time to really absorb the learning curve. And that's why I wanted to do this review. We're gonna go very in-depth and detailed, which is why I put my tutorial as a separate video, because I'm going in, honey. We're gonna talk about all of the attachments, like what do these even do? The pros and cons about this thing, because there are pros and there are cons. I'm not the biggest fan of everything myself. Who's gonna love it? Who's gonna hate it? And whether it's the right tool for you. So let's set the record straight. I just wanna take a moment to share the crazy story of how I got my Dyson Airwrap, because I really wanted one for a really long time, and needless to say, I couldn't afford it. And I was like, set on somehow manifesting getting this thing for free. I did not know how in the slightest, but I was obsessed with this thing even before I got it. And once I gave up all expectations, stopped trying to figure out how this beautiful machine was gonna come into my life, I actually ended up winning it on the first day of Ali Glines' 12 Days of Christmas giveaway. And I still can't believe to this day that I won it. I'm so, so grateful to her. Go check out her channel down below. I'm gonna link it out of all my gratitude because this thing changed my life. So thank you, Ali. You're an absolute angel. And go check her out, guys. She's like one of the most generous, sweetest YouTubers out there. Let's rewind to before I got my Dyson Airwrap. As you probably saw in a lot of my videos, I styled my hair with my old trusty John Frieda hot air brush. It has been through so much with me, and the day that I got the Dyson, I threw it in the trash. Sadly, that's one of the biggest mistakes in my life. So why I wanted the Dyson is because with the hot air brush, I got a very straight looking blowout. I much prefer my hair this type of wavy texture over straight. I also have very fine hair, so I was always struggling to get a lot of volume in my hair. And because a hot air brush uses a lower heat, my hair did get healthier when I used it. But again, I had the dilemma of, I want these waves that I can't get with the hot air brush, so what do? Enter the Dyson Airwrap. Let's touch on heat first. The reason why this is so good for your hair is because it does use lower heat. According to Dyson, the hottest this will get is 302 degrees Fahrenheit, which honestly, when I used a curling iron before, I would generally use it at about 300, maybe 350 degrees. But most curling irons will go up to 450 degrees. And I see you all who use your curling irons and flat irons on the hottest setting. Most of the time, I do use my Dyson Airwrap on the medium heat setting. That's this medium button right here. And that apparently is 140 degrees Fahrenheit. When I'm using my Dyson Airwrap on the medium heat setting, I can literally keep my hand on it as I'm styling my hair. Basically, the way that I feel is that if it's too hot for my hand, it's too hot for my hair. So that's what's great about the Dyson, is that I can use a much lower heat setting on my hair, and that's really, really helped the health of my hair. For this tutorial, I actually used the high heat setting, which is 302 degrees, and that's only because it's a rainy day and really humid outside, so in order for the style to stay a little better, I did use a high heat setting, but mostly I use it on medium heat. Long story short, I don't even think they make a curling iron that goes down to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you can use that low of temperature on your hair, it's gonna be much, much better for it. Now let's dive into all of the multiple attachments that you get with this thing. I know some people say some are redundant. I'm gonna do my best to describe all of them for you. I personally don't use all of them. I have played around with all of them, but there's a few that are kind of my go-to ones. The blow dryer attachment. What can I say about this besides for this thing is very, very fast. You have to understand that Dyson specializes in products with airflow, which is why they make fans or vacuum cleaners, anything where air is being manipulated. This thing dries my hair so fast, it is not even funny. In fact, this is like, I don't know, an industrial leaf blower, basically. My husband steals this thing from me to use all over the house to like dry our filters for the AC, to dry just anything that needs to be dried. He will steal this from me and use it. I think it's probably like stronger than anything that you could find at Home Depot from like Rigid or Milwaukee. Now, the actual shape of the attachment is much different than other concentrator nozzles on other hair dryers, and I find that that's where things get a little tricky with this. I'm gonna insert a photo of kind of like what the air looks like coming out of this thing, and you have to kind of find a sweet spot for it in order for your hair to just not go flying all over the place. I would say that's really the only like iffy part about the blow dryer attachment is that if you're too close to it or too far away, you're not hitting that sweet spot where it's really like concentrated. And I don't know, I can't really imagine using this with a brush. I'm sure not many people are. It's just kind of hard to get it to not make your hair go flying all crazy. Like I said, this thing is really powerful. Let's move on to two of the most controversial attachments that come with the Dyson. The two smoothing brushes. Honestly, I don't use these much, if you couldn't tell. Now, what I have seen is that if you have thicker or curlier hair than I do, for instance, then you might want to go in with these first if you're going to move on to using one of the curling attachments, just to get your hair smoothed out, especially at the roots. That's what these are designed for, is smoothing the hair. They most definitely will get your hair the smoothest out of all of the attachments, including the round brush. Oh, we're getting to you in a moment. You're not off the hook. Essentially, the way that you can think about these is kind of like using a paddle brush or a vented brush with a blow dryer. So if you already do that, that's kind of what these do. Now, obviously, these are not gonna get your hair as smooth or stick straight as a flat iron would, but let's be honest, we all know how damaging flat irons are for your hair. I actually can't remember the last time I used a flat iron on my hair. It's been over a year. I think it's been over 2 years, actually. So what exactly are the differences between the two of these? Let's investigate a little bit. So the gray one, the bristles are a lot firmer. I can't really bend them that much, as you can see. And because of that, this attachment is gonna give you more tension than the other one. So if your hair's thicker, you need more tension, you really gotta like get in there and smooth out the hair. This attachment is gonna do a lot better job of that than the other one. Now this one, as you can see, she's a lot more bendier. She is bendy. I mean, I can like play the guitar on this thing, okay? And it's a lot better for hair that tends to lean on the more fine, tangly side. Because it's very bendy, it kind of reminds me of like those tangle teasers or the wet brush, where it's gonna be very gentle gliding through the hair and smooth out your hair without really causing a lot of damage, tension, anything like that. Personally, between the two, this is the one that I would reach for, just because it's a lot gentler on my ends and I can kind of like brush my hair with it when I was using it. And it almost works as more of like a detangler. But for that reason, it doesn't offer as much tension. The hair just kind of glides through it a lot easier. And now let's get into the attachment that made me seriously regret throwing out my John Frieda hot air brush. For whatever reason, I don't know why, maybe I'll reach out to Dyson about this one day when I'm bored. Maybe they'll comment on this video, I don't know. The bristles on the hot air brush attachment are just plastic. Now, on most other hot air brushes, including my old John Frieda one, it's a mix of plastic bristles with boar bristles. And if you've ever used a boar bristle hairbrush, then you know how much extra tension, extra shine it gives to your hair. That Sadly, this attachment does not. Without that extra tension from the boar bristles, it's really not nearly as smoothing as my old John Frieda hot airbrush was. And for that reason, I really don't reach for it that often. I did reach for it a lot this past summer just to smooth my hair out before I did go in with a curling iron, but other than that, I would definitely be using it a lot more if it did have boar bristles incorporated in the design. Now, the difference between this attachment and something like this attachment is this is gonna make your hair a lot smoother and flatter, I would say, where this attachment, if you do wanna reach for it, is gonna give you a lot more volume. It does give you more of that like kind of salon blowout look rather than the smoothing brushes, and especially if you need to get volume at the root, I should just put it on this while I'm showing you guys. Especially if you want to get volume at the root, then what you're going to want to do is lift your hair up and really like put it under here. You'll get a lot of volume in your hair, as you can see. And as you'll see in my tutorial, I mainly use it for my bangs. Now let's talk about the curling attachments, because this is the reason why I wanted this, and I'm sure it's the reason why a lot of people want to get the Dyson. Most of the reviews and videos that I've seen about the Airwrap, a lot of people recommend the smaller barrels, which are actually 0.8 inches. So if you're used to using maybe like a 1-inch curling iron, then this is gonna give you closer to that size curl. Also, if you have problems with your hair holding a curl for whatever reason, then that's a good time to use the smaller ones as well, because a tighter curl is gonna hold better and not fall out as fast. Now personally, because my hair holds a curl a lot easier, I use the larger barrels most of the time, which are 1.6 inches in diameter. Personally, when I have used the smaller diameter ones, my hair does have more volume, I would say, but it also kind of looks like Shirley Temple hair, and I don't think it's the cutest look on me, so that's why I prefer the larger barrels on myself. Now for the longest time after the Dyson Airwrap came out, these were really like the proprietary technology as far as I don't think there's ever been anything on the market that used hot air to hold a curl like this. And now recently I've been seeing a lot of dupes. So just bear that in mind if the Dyson Airwrap is just absolutely no way much too cost prohibitive for you. But for me, this attachment performs, I mean, as you can see, exactly how I wanted it to. I have like the big bouncy blowout waves of my dreams, and it's just become my go-to hairstyle.
Your hair looks great.
Thank you. Now looking back at my old videos, I bet you can tell when I got my Dyson Airwrap. I mean, first of all, I told you when I got it exactly a year ago, but I feel like before my hair, first of all, was very straight most of the time because that's how the hot airbrush styled my hair, but it also just looked very fine and flat. And since I got the Dyson Airwrap, I feel like my hair has just every single day been looking shinier, healthier, and most importantly, more voluminous. If you're someone like me whose hair is thin, fine, and also very damaged, then this is really good for you. And I feel like I'm starting to sound like an ad, but I kid you not, guys, I love this thing so much. This is not a sponsored video. I'm gonna marry it. Now that said, there are some cons to the Dyson Airwrap. I know, hard to believe. And that brings me to the pros and cons. I mean, the first con, honestly, is this hot airbrush attachment. I don't know what they were thinking, but it's almost unusable for me to do like a hot airbrush blowout with it. I've tried, it's frizzy, it's a mess, like there's not enough tension with it to be able to do it. I actually threw out my John Frieda hot airbrush before I got a chance to try this attachment, and now I seriously regret it. I wish I still had it because I just can't do that straight blowout look anymore at all. I only use this thing to do my bangs, and that's basically it. So I could also just as easily though use one of these attachments to do my bangs. That makes this one basically worthless. Now other cons to note, and this just goes in general for all of the attachments for the most part, the heat is one-sided. So if you're used to using something like a curling iron or a flat iron, you're getting heat from both sides of that tool. Obviously, with either of these attachments, you're really only getting heat, and that's low heat at that, on one side. In my book, that's a plus, but obviously that means that your style has the potential to not hold as long, to not be as smooth, especially not without using the higher heat setting. As far as the curling attachments go, they definitely don't get your hair as smooth as a curling iron would. I wouldn't call my hair right now frizzy by any means, but especially in the summer when you're dealing with like high humidity, rain possibly, then my hair definitely holds the style a lot better with a curling iron than when I use this. And I actually had my hair fried like right before summer began, so there was no way that I could use these attachments this past summer. I had to resort to using my curling irons. And obviously because of the double-sided heat of a curling iron, even though I used a curling iron set to 300 degrees and the Dyson Airwrap on the highest heat setting, which can get to 300 degrees, the curling iron still smoothed my hair out a lot more and left it less frizzy in the humidity. And that's with using anti-frizz products as well. So obviously that's a con. If you have very, very frizzy hair, then you may just need to resort to using hot tools instead of something like this to get the smoothness that you're used to. Another con to the product is obviously with all of these attachments, it can take multiple attachments to achieve a hairstyle with this. So for instance, in my tutorial, I used the blow dry attachments, the hot air brush, and obviously both sides of the curling attachment. So that's 4 attachments right there. And I would say the biggest hassle is juggling the 2 sides of the curling attachment, especially because I do one half of my hair, then the other on the bottom, then the next half, then the next half. So that's like 4 times that I'm flipping between attachments. I do think they came out with a new attachment that you can just change the direction of the airflow. I'm gonna have to check it out. I do hope that it's reverse compatible with the original Airwrap, but even with that one attachment where you can change the direction of the airflow, that would still leave me with using 3 different attachments to achieve my hairstyle. So in that sense, with all of these attachments, it may feel like there's some redundancies, but honestly, you may actually end up using all of them because it can take multiple ones just to achieve one hairstyle. And I would say another con, and you might have seen this a little bit in my tutorial, is that my hair, possibly like most people's, tends to dry faster on the ends rather than the roots. And so oftentimes when I'm doing my hair with it, I'm juggling having my ends not get too dried out while I'm using it with getting my roots very, very dry because they're still wet. And you do want your ends to stay damp for the attachments to be effective on them. But more on that later. And then of course, the biggest con to this thing, as I'm sure everyone can agree on, is the price. I mean, Dyson is known as a luxury brand. All of their products are expensive. I think this is the only Dyson branded product that I own. Again, there's dupes out there. I don't know how well they perform. Considering Dyson is so advanced with their air technology, they just may not perform as well. I don't know, but yeah, I mean, this thing is like a small fortune. You basically need a mortgage for it. But for the price, you do get a lot. So let's jump over to the pro side. What's really cool about the Dyson is that you're getting a blow dryer. Honestly, I didn't even know this was an attachment before. I only like saw these. So I didn't know that I was gonna get a blow dryer. And I have a T3 blow dryer that I just don't use anymore because this one is a beast. You do get a handy dandy like paddle brush. So that way, if you want to blow dry your hair straight with a paddle brush, you don't need 2 hands, you just need 1. And you essentially get 2 different sizes of curling irons. So this would be one curling iron right here. This would be another size, but you get both with this. And of course, as useless as I may feel like it is, you also get a hot air brush with it. So if that's your thing, this comes in it. And if they ever decide to put boar bristles on it, then I can definitely see the value of having this attachment included in the set. Again, one of the biggest pros is the lower heat than hot tools. If I had $1 for every time I say heat in this video. But seriously, I've noticed such a significant difference in the health of my hair since I started using it. I cannot even begin to explain to you guys. When I started using my curling iron this past summer, again, my hair just kept getting more and more damaged. And once the humidity went away and I started busting out the Dyson, my hair has been just feeling so much healthier, and that to me is kind of priceless. And then obviously it gives so much more volume than when I use a curling iron. I cannot achieve this look with a curling iron. Maybe if I use like a 2.5 inch one, but then still like it just wouldn't look right. This is just the look that I've been trying to achieve my whole life, and the Dyson has really helped me with it. A curling iron does not come close to it. I also like the fact that they're just these big undone waves, as opposed to when I do go in with a curling iron, everything's more structured and you can kind of see exactly where the curling iron's been. That's not so with the Dyson. With the Dyson, it just looks like you woke up like this and this is your hair. And also, very importantly, and a big plus for me, is my hair is so much faster to style now. Before, I would have to blow dry my hair to 100% dry because that's what it has to be to go in with a hot tool, unless you like your hair getting burned off. Then you need to wait for whatever hot tool you're using to heat up. And then after my hair is dry, I would need to go in and section it and use a hot tool. So needless to say, it was much more of a process. And what the Dyson does is it just styles your hair while drying it. Genius. Now I just rough blow dry my roots, start going in with the curling attachments, and it literally takes me like 5 to 10 minutes to blow dry my hair. 15 tops. And for someone like me who prefers a curly wavy style, it is just so much of a time saver. And really, it just makes more sense to be styling your hair while drying it. That's like one of the biggest things that I cannot stress enough, is take advantage of the fact that it styles your hair while drying it, because that way the hydrogen bonds will help you maintain the style. I just kind of like cringe every time I see somebody use like the curling attachment, for instance, on dry hair, because that's a waste of time. It's gonna do nothing for the hair. The hair is already set straight. It does not want to hold a curl because the hydrogen bonds have been reformed as straight, or really however they've already dried. It takes extreme heat from hot tools to, if your hair is dried straight or if you've air dried your hair, then go in, smooth your hair and put a curl in it. So this is not gonna do anything on dried hair, especially if you dried it straight. Personally, what I found is that even with the lower heat setting, I really do feel like my curls last throughout the days because I'm setting those hydrogen bonds in the shape of a curl. So I don't even go in and use hairspray on the lengths of my hair. I hate hairspray, honestly. And I feel like my style lasts so much better than it does when I use a curling iron on blow-dried hair. So please just know that if you ever see someone demonstrating this on already dried hair, it's obviously not going to perform the way that it should be, because that's not what it was intended for. It was intended to dry your hair and style it at the same time. Hence, you know, all the air coming out of this thing. So, I mean, it takes less time for me to do my hair now. Big plus. My hair lasts longer. Big plus. And I have so much volume and my hair is healthy. Super big plus. And even though I got mine for free, if you had to ask me, would I spend money on this? That is a big resounding yes. And I told my husband that if he broke it, we're buying a new one, and he agreed. Right, baby?
Your hair looks good.
Thank you. Now, do I think that this completely replaces a curling iron? No. Before I got my Dyson, I had actually just shelled out some money on the entire T3 convertible set and a bunch of attachments for it. And then I thought to myself, well, that was money down the drain. I fully expected that I would never use it again, and I'm gonna be honest, I really don't use my T3 hair dryer anymore, but there is still a time and place for using a curling iron, especially if you're just having a bad hair day and you need all that extra frizz smoothed out. If it's a very humid day outside, for instance, or maybe if you wanna do beach waves. I haven't really experimented too much with it, but I feel like this gives a little too much volume to do a really nice beach wave. That's where you might want to use a wand and let your hair look a little flatter. And if you're already one of the lucky few who has very voluminous hair and the last thing you want to do is add more volume to it, then definitely go with a curling iron, preferably on a low heat setting instead of this, because I mean, this is volume city. Which brings me to my conclusion. Do I think that you, my friend, need the Dyson Airwrap? First of all, if you already have a hot air brush and are using that and want to invest in a better one, then no. Now, if you love your hot air brush and what it does for your hair, but you wish that it would give you waves or curls, then you're gonna love this. If you have damaged hair and wanna get it healthier, then 100% this is gonna be better than any other way of styling your hair aside from just going in with a blow dryer. If you're someone with fine, thin, flat hair like me, then 100% this gives more volume than anything else I've done, including blow drying my hair upside down and all those crazy tricks. Now, if you're someone who regularly flat irons their hair and wants a super sleek, stick straight look, then you're probably not gonna like this. That's really not the Dyson's forte. And if your hair is on the thicker side, then it also might not work the best for you. What I would recommend if you wanna try it is work in very, very small sections. When I use it, I honestly use really large sections and kind of do it haphazardly, but you're gonna need to be a lot more meticulous and use very small sections if you have very thick or already very curly hair. Also, if you're someone who blow dries their hair to 100% dry and then goes in with a curling iron, and you want something that's gonna make your hair perfectly styled in less time, because as we know, time is money, then this is gonna save you a lot of time. And it might be worth the monetary investment simply in the time that it saves. I mean, if you couldn't tell, I think it's worth it. If there's anything that I missed, I tried being as thorough as I possibly could in this review, then please leave all of your questions, all of your comments down below in the comments section. I'll be sure to answer them for you guys, because I want to arm you with as much knowledge as possible before you go out and spend the big bucks on this. And if you found this video helpful or informative, then please do take a second to hit the like button, so that way this video can help others make a more informed decision as to whether or not to splurge on the Dyson Airwrap. And if you liked this video, then you might like one of these two videos as well. And to stay up to date on all of my latest videos, because they're gonna come fast and furious, click on my face to subscribe and join the Cam fam. Again, I really hope this video was helpful, and I will see you in my next one. Mwah.